let's stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. We don't have a lot of people in the audience today. We do have some people from law enforcement here. They don't have their masks on, of course. But
inside.
Hey, Dan and Chris, can you hear Bruce okay?
He's a little faint, but I can make him out, so.
okay,
He's a little
that's good.
Your faces today.
Okay, we'll take a look at the agenda. Anybody have any additions to that? Corrections?
Mr. Chairman, at 9:20, when Bill Folger is here, he will be doing another item. It's called NVR upgrade. Nancy Victor Robert, NVR upgrade
Okay.
from Reliant Systems. And I have that information to go along with that. Also, going to do a little change. Talked to Chris Hollingsworth yesterday, and Luke Como and Jeremy Adler from Southwest Mental Health would like to come to the meeting, so I'm going to move. They're going to be here at 10:30, so we'll push the CARES Act grant program discussion back to 11 o'clock, if that would be okay.
Okay.
And that's the only changes I have at this time.
Okay, anybody care to approve?
So moved.
Okay, Les made a
By
motion.
Les?
Second,
Les and Dan was second. Okay, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
aye.
Okay, then we'll take a look at the consent agenda.
I'd move the consent agenda.
Okay, Luke made the motion,
Motion by Luke,
Second, Chris.
second by Chris. Okay, all in favor say aye.
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 Okay, and then we move on to the county sheriff's department here.
Well, I'm here, you have a bid for a pickup. The reason we got to this point, the car that Deputy Danks has been driving, that old Caprice we've been trying to work that along. Well, it's gonna be $4,000 to fix it. It's now worth $3,000 on fronting, so we're not gonna put any more money into it. The reason we still have that vehicle is this year I didn't get any new vehicles because I put that money in the camera system. So otherwise it should have been gone anyway. So I guess I'm asking to replace that with basically right now you can't get a bid on hardly anything because it's between the years of 2020 and 21 for vehicles, but we could get, by the end of this week, if we could order a Dodge pickup, we could still get that. They're gonna make them yet. Everything else, they're not even, you can't even get a bid on. To me, it's the same bids we had last year yet, we're running off. It's $45,000 list price and we can get it for 29 yet, so. And that's, I guess that's why, and as far as the budget goes, I got about $6,000 in that, that's about it, so it's gonna be over the budget for this year for that part of it. Because like I said, I took all the money out. We don't wanna get too far behind. Next year I'm only getting 2 vehicles because I'm trying to keep the budget at 0 for COVID and stuff. So we gotta be careful we don't get behind too. So I guess that's why I'm here asking for, to replace that vehicle with the Dodge pickup. Take about 6 to 7 weeks to get now, so.
Is the other car still operating, or is that
No,
she dead?
we can get about $1,000–1,200 for it as junk, basically. The whole engine blew in it, so, and that's what people want them cars for, so. So no, it's not worth much.
Okay. I'd move for approval.
I would second.
A motion and a second.
motion by Luke, second by Les to approve the purchase.
Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. Okay. Looks like a good deal that I hope they can continue making those classic ones, the classic version, because it is a pretty good value.
We've had good luck with the Dodges so far, so they're
Yeah.
at least expensive right now, so.
Okay. Then you have a grant resolution we have to talk about.
So through the Southwest Emergency Communication Board, which Les sits on, and I represent Sheriff Freeman on the Regional Advisory Committee that's also meets at the same time. We've applied, which we did last year, if you remember correctly, the for a GIS grant, the contract with Lyon County. Mark Volz does our work with that. And last year we actually, I think the award last year was about 7 times this much, but it was because there was less people that applied for it. Now this year, all 11 counties in the Southwest region applied, and it was divided up fairly equally per size. So this year we were awarded $11,090.52. Basically, we're looking today for the board to take a resolution or make a resolution accepting that money as a grant. We originally thought this would be money we would have to match, but
Right.
it came back as not a matching, so we do not need to match that amount. But we do need the resolution to do that work. And just a little history, last year, Mark, we had a substantial amount of money, which we knew we would never use because our GIS program wasn't in that much need of being, updated, because it's been kept up fairly well. But we did spend, I think, roughly 15% of that money last year, if I off the top remember correctly. And so I suspect that this will be more in line with what we'll probably use again for the next 12 months. So it should pretty well take care of our needs, which will basically take care of updating 911 addressing, geospatial addressing, so like layers of buildings that they're working on now. And just kind of keep us up to where we need to be, that the Department of Public Safety, which is a division of Public Safety Emergency Communication Network, is where these funds are coming from. And they have an initiative to get this GIS data statewide up to date. So.
Okay, this is the thing we already,
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, we need a motion second for accepting Resolution 59-25-20 to accept the ECN grant to Pipestone County in the amount of $11,090.52.
okay, I'll make a motion that we approve it.
I would second, and the other thing is, this was pumped out to all the counties involved in the system for the counties to accept the money.
Okay, any other discussion? All in
Yes,
favor?
Mr. Chair, Dan.
Okay.
Officer Heyman, do I understand you to say that there is not a requirement for matching funds on this? Are there any other requirements or strings attached?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Just a quick question about all these little blue signs on all the rural addresses. Are they pretty well up to date now, as far as you know, or?
Well, I think, between
Talked about it a few
Kyle
years
at
ago.
zoning and the county highway shop, they take care of those. We help look for, we look to see for damaged ones and stuff, and we'll report them. I mean, we used to call Doug now, I suppose we'll call, chief or whatever on that. But, yeah, I mean, for the most part, unless sheriff sees anything different, I mean, as I drive around, the issue we have is.
Talked about it a few years ago, because we thought they were kind of behind the curve on that, but
I
maybe
think
they're
we're
kind
doing
of.
good there. If we have an issue, it's sometimes in the cities where the house numbers don't get put on. That's probably the bigger, but the blue signs are rural addressings.
I know there are a lot of homes in towns that don't have numbers on them.
That's the tough part, and the people, the cities, I don't know how that works. Each town
Cities need to
handles it
pass ordinances to make
Make
sure
it
that they
mandatory.
have signs, numbers on their houses.
It's usually sufficient enough to kind of figure out.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a guess, but for the most part. But otherwise, in the rural areas, no. I think we're sitting fairly well.
And the county's laid out so easy, even if it's not marked, you can figure it out real
Kinda
easy.
I know where it's at.
With signs.
Okay,
The biggest issue in talking with Nick about it, and Nick will be, and you can ask him too, is that sometimes the blue signs disappear from the houses. They move them or take them down or run them over or hit them with the mowers or.
Don't like them where they're at.
Put 'em
Exactly,
Yeah.
that type of thing, so, but, our ordinance does state that they're on the right-of-way, not like some counties have them next to the mailbox, which then that's just a disaster for getting them run over.
Or snowplows.
Right, and the other part of it is that Kyle takes care of all new residents, so anytime that you have authorized, the grant for taxes for a house that's being built in the county, they all have to go through Kyle's office to get all the permits and get the blue signs, and the highway department installs everything. The issue we're going to come up with in the future is replacing the green intersection signs. There was issues even back in the 90s when we put up that some of the townships didn't want to deal with it. And I think the county probably will end up taking care of the whole thing with the highway department doing it, just to make sure they get shot up and run over and things like that too. So to make sure that those are still intact, we'll be dealing with those with the highway department. We'll just, or Nick will just end up taking it out of maintenance budget out there to fix signs if we need to keep them going.
And crashes, vehicle crashes, wreck them, people shoot them up. I'll plow my back, something happens. For the most part though, since the 90s when they were put up, working with the county shop's been great. If a phone call's made, they're relatively on top of that real quickly.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You need a copy of the signed?
I do.
Okay. I'll let Bruce get that right now.
Okay, Bill, I see you're here. Are you ready to move forward?
Yes.
With your green ink?
Yep. Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah, will do. Thanks, Mike.
Look like we have some security
Yeah, I've got
happening.
a quote this morning. It's a renewal for our spam filtering. And then, working through these numbers, they've got a great deal for the 5-year deal. That's the monthly rate is quite significant discount over buying it a year at a time. I don't see Barracuda actually leaving the business. They're pretty set. So I'm recommending that we renew it for the 5 years, and we'll see where we are then. I guess that's about it. Any questions about what we're doing?
So for the 5 years, total cost will be $22,880. Okay.
Correct.
And this is the system that we've been using for how many years now?
1.
1 year, and it's
This
been
is 1 year.
satisfactory, and you're satisfied with the way it's operating and taking care of us?
Yeah, I think so. They all got their little hiccups, but for the most part, this works really well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's,
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, motion by Les.
motion to approve the request. Anybody care to second
Second,
that?
Chris.
Chris?
Chris seconded. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Thank you.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Then you have
And,
another upgrade.
Yeah, there's another thing that we've noticed is we've been replacing cameras with our camera system. Now, for the last 2 years of new cameras, they're much higher quality than the older ones. So our NVRs are set up for 3 megapixel, and the last cameras we set up were 8 megapixel, and the ones we did last year were 5 megapixel. So what we're finding is that we either have to pay to have them re-aimed because we're losing the edges of what we're recording. When we're viewing them, it's not as critical, but what we're recording, we're losing the door that we set the camera up to be able to see, or that type of thing is what's happening, and it's going to get worse as we start replacing the older cameras. Now they'll all be 8 megapixel or bigger moving forward. This is coming up now even more so with the way we're locked down right now. So we are watching these cameras and more often, and it's becoming noticeable. So Reliance is who we've been going through for all this stuff, and they do all the maintenance on everything. What we want to do is replace the 3 NVRs, the main NVRs that we have. They're expensive, but we do get 6 to 8 years out of them at a time. These new ones would handle 12 megapixels, so that should future-proof us for a little while on them. And in discussing through how we pay for this, we're looking at using CARES money, as this would be allowable under that.
Okay. Well, it seems to make sense if the things are getting, are obsolete, you need to replace them at some point, so. And you have funding available, sounds like, for it, so.
Yep. Any other questions about them?
Anybody else have any questions, or else we'll,
As far as the labor build at $75 an hour, you have an estimate roughly hip shot on hours?
He'll be here for half a day,
Okay.
setting them up.
okay.
Mr. Chair, I'd move for approval.
Okay, Luke made a motion to approve,
Second.
Les second. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Thank you.
Anything else for
Dan,
Bill?
Chris, did I lose your video?
No, I can see you.
Okay, all right, I can't see it on my computer right now.
Do we
I can see
wanna,
Dan and I can see the desk there.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you back.
Kathy isn't here with any stuff for personnel at the moment. We've got a little-
Kathy's online, she's on video.
Okay,
Kathy, do you have any personnel items you want to talk about?
Yes, I do. I have 2 items today. So one of them was in your board packet, and it was the phased retirement option agreement, supplemental benefits information for Carol Scotting. And the request today is Carol Scotting, in extension, has indicated that she would be in favor of doing the phased retirement option for their office starting in September. So the start of the agreement would be September 8th of this year. Our current plan right now with that office is to have her go to halftime through December, and then we'd likely be looking at hiring someone new in January of next year. And then we're still, I think the personnel committee was pretty much in agreement to backfill this position at a 32-hour per week position. So it would be 80% time instead of full-time. But as of right now, I'm just seeking approval of the PRO agreement.
Mr. Chair, I'll move for approval.
okay, we have a motion to approve by Chris.
Dan will second.
Dan seconded. Any other
I
discussion?
do have a question though, Kath. So she's gonna go to part-time. Do you have somebody else picking up extra hours now, or are you gonna wait until you replace her completely?
We are actually just going to have her go halftime for the rest of the year. Their workload is somewhat down because of COVID. So she is just going to go halftime, and then we're going to have the 80% time person coming in the beginning of next year, and Carol will continue halftime for a while she's training her, him or her in.
Okay, that was my question, how we were gonna have that carryover with the knowledge. So Carol will stay on to train the new person.
Yes, and like currently the agreement says through August, but she likely will not be here until next August. I'm guessing it'll probably be in the spring sometime, but we're gonna start with this year agreement. And then if she chooses to give us a 2-week notice, in the spring, she can do that. So, once we feel like the person is sufficiently trained and ready to go, so.
Are there any other positions similar to this that could possibly be combined, seeing as how the work requirements don't really require full-time?
I guess we haven't looked into it too heavily, but I think it'd be a little tough to combine without having an opening in another department. So, maybe if another opening came around, we could look at that, but it's a little tough because Extension's kind of unique in that they work with, primarily the University of Minnesota staff. but they are a county employee. So, and then just their location might be a little difficult to combine, but, not saying it's not possible, but.
Oh, okay, well, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the request for Carol Scotting. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you, Kathy. Anything else from you
Thank
today?
you. I actually do have one more item. So Chris McChesney is an appraiser in the assessor's office. There isn't a handout for this, so I'm just going to explain it. She did pass her narrative and her required exam to receive her AMA license, so her accredited Minnesota assessor license. It is a pretty big accomplishment. It takes a few years of experience and going through those hoops and just getting experience as an appraiser. So she would be eligible to move up into a senior appraiser role. Right now she's a junior appraiser. And in talking with Joyce, she would like to move her up into the senior appraiser role effective July 14th, which is the day her license became active. So she would start out in that new position, and it would be that would be her new anniversary date. And we're looking at putting her on the new pay scale. I'll just say the amounts. Right now she's at $25.02 an hour. We like to try to get people to a 5% increase for a promotion, which would be $26.27 an hour. So we'd be looking to move her to the new salary range at B32 Step C, which is $26.57 per hour. So about $1.55 an hour increase, and she'd be moved to that new scale. So I would be seeking approval to put her on that step effective July 14th.
Okay,
So moved.
so Les made a motion to approve.
Second, Chris.
Chris seconded the motion. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Anything else, Kathy?
No, that is it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And then we have Joyce Schmidt at 9:30, but I see she is here. Well, if you're,
No, that's fine.
we can just, well,
I do this.
yep.
Yeah,
keep
we are.
moving.
Okay, so what I'm here for is a soft, everybody's requesting money, I'm sorry, guys.
They haven't even started budgets.
Kind of the ball rolling here today, but, so, every year, by law, we have to retain our field cards, which is our property record cards for each individual for 10 years. And, we were throwing them up into the, the third floor, and a few years ago, we started, when we hired that summer help, we had them start scanning those in. So they've been being put into Laserfish over the years. Well, it's about a three-week process if staff does it. So I thought, I'm just gonna check to see if there's somehow we can electronically do this and save some time. So that's kind of the initiative where this started. It was taking a lot of our time and whatnot, and I had no idea what it would cost. So OPG3 is a company. Basically, they're a bunch of engineers that engineers that develop software to programs for you at your request. They do a lot of processes, and maybe in the future we'll use them again, or look to them for some help. But anyway, so I contacted Laserfish. Laserfish contacted OPG. Laserfish is just the software company, and OPG3 is a reseller of the Laserfish product, and then they also do maintenance and service for them. Okay. Anyway, so I contacted, so I knew this was going to take some communication between Vanguard, where our field cards are coming out of, and them, and that seemed to work. So what this product would do is we would actually electronically create a PDF file. So it's no different. A PDF looks like the paper you're looking at. And park that on a drive, and then OPG, through this process, would then grab that and move it into Laserfish. So currently, we're talking, and my old field cards on the Xerox system were they were 3-page field cards. They've kind of expanded to 6, and a lot of that has to do, we got more information on there and whatnot. And it's instead of the wide paper, it's the 8.5 by 11 like this. So anyway, it's, grown to, the minimum field card right now is 6 pages, and it can go to 12 depending on if you have a large operation, like maybe in commercial, industrial with a lot of buildings, or ag places with a lot of buildings. So anywhere from 6 to 12 pages is what it kind of ranks. I can also choose what type of field card I'm saving, and I've told the girls I'd rather have more information for future than less, so we have kind of decided on the more broad, so 12 is not going to be uncommon for us to copy. So we're talking 50 to 70,000 pages of data today to scan in, and that's probably going to take, if we do it manually, it's probably a 3-week process at minimum, and that's fitting it in as we go through our work schedule. Where they took, and it was I think it was the city of Holland, I think it was 500 and some pages, and I think it took 17 minutes to put it all in there. So we're still talking maybe 30, 40 hours of doing that, at this point, but so we're saving about 80 hours of labor, all the paper that I don't have to reprint again, toner and wear and tear on that machine and all that kind of thing. So the cost was $4,625, and I got thinking this morning, does that, the maintenance is it's a fixed bid, so I wouldn't expect it to be any different than that. And their service, they would maintain it. It's really a streamlined process and basic. I don't expect a lot of maintenance, but honestly, that's probably one thing that I should have asked and I didn't. If we have problems with that, what's our backup on that? So their rate is $185 an hour. I apologize for that. I should have had that figured out, but I don't expect any problems with it. It can be used annually. So I think our rate of return on it is probably 2 years. Any questions?
Any questions for Joyce? Do we have money in the budget or somewhere for
My
this, or-
funding, as of June 30th, I'm sitting at 48%, so no, I don't. I never had this in my budget. It kind of came up in midstream. There may be some. I may have a couple thousand, but that's probably, real honestly, printing was in excess because of COVID-19 and things like that, so.
Does it matter, if we wait until our next meeting to give you time to find out what the maintenance cost would be, and or, if there's.
No, I think we could wait a month. Or what's the next meeting?
2 weeks.
2 weeks, yeah. I could call them today and find that out, yeah. And that's, I certainly
And like you
understand
say,
that.
if there's any backup issue or whatever.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay,
all right, we'll do
all right,
that.
thank you, Joyce.
You bet.
Maybe in the meantime, you'll find a pot of money.
A what?
Pot of money.
I wish I could.
Well, if you always say it's COVID related, then it's easier.
Yeah, I know.
I wish.
I considered that,
But, well, you can,
You don't want to
want-
handle all those papers.
well, that's true.
okay, thank you.
Yep, thanks, Joyce.
Okay, the next thing we have is Tyler at 9:45. You want to take a 15-minute recess?
I guess we could.
Sure.
Okay? Okay, Tyler's here to talk about the CARES Act election funding.
Morning.
All right, so, as Bruce indicated, this is part of the federal funding for the CARES Act that the state received, and it's actually a state grant. It's strictly for COVID-related items related to elections. Our grant amount, if I can find it, would be $8,320.52. It is going to be that because I'm going to have agreements with Pipestone and Edgerton to where we spend the money, because it's just a lot easier if we just spend it. Let us know what you want. With that said, I would be shocked if we spent all this money, because the state is also providing all the hand sanitizer and disinfectants for free. So really the only thing that we have, they're giving us masks, they're giving us all the PPE that we need. So we're gonna buy some barriers, some plastic barriers for the polling places and anything else they might need. And then some increased election judge costs. So I doubt, I'm gonna do my best to try to spend it all, but we'll see. There really isn't a whole lot of election-related costs that the state actually hasn't already covered for us. So all I'm doing is just looking for by a resolution approval before we can apply for that grant and utilize at least some of the funds.
Okay,
I can ask.
Mr. Chair, move for approval. Chris?
okay, Chris voted,
Second.
approved, Les second. Any other discussion? How soon will this money be available? Is it something you'll have before the election, you think?
I doubt it's gonna come before the election, because the agreements with the city don't have to be approved until the middle of September. It's not a big deal if it doesn't come beforehand. We have enough money set aside for elections. We'll just pay ourselves back when we get it. Like I said, this isn't gonna be a whole lot. Even if we spent it all, it's only $8,000. I know it's still a chunk of change, but in the grand scheme of things, when it comes to elections, it's not that much. So I'm expecting to get, they haven't really told us when it's gonna be distributed out, but I'm gonna try to get the agreements and get the grant application and the resolution as fast as we can to see if maybe we can get the cut check before the primary. So.
Okay. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
I,
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Dan, are you there?
Yeah, I'm an aye as well. I couldn't get off mute quick enough.
Oh.
Okay, you approve?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank
I
you.
do have a question for Tyler, though, before Tyler leaves.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Poll volunteers, how are you looking there?
Election judges,
Yeah.
struggling. The city of Edgerton sounds like they have enough as of right now. I will say the city of Pipestone, they've had a couple of individuals back out. Usually election judges are the older community. They don't feel safe. And then also they don't want to have to, or physically they can't sit and wear a mask all day. Usually city of Pipestone, just because it's already hard to find people who are willing to serve as election judges, they have the people work the entire polling, thank you, Steve, the entire hours when the polling's open from 7 to 8 p.m. So they're trying to prevent that as much as possible. The last time I checked, Deb said that they want probably 8 to 10 more people. I gave them the list of all the other trained judges from the past when all the townships were in person instead of mail balloting, and hopefully they can try to track some people down. I've tried to forward on any requests or any people willing to do it to her, and that's been a couple. But if you guys know of anybody or anybody in the public that's willing to do it, we definitely could use them at the city of Pipestone, that's for sure. But here at the county, we're fine. We always hire in one person to work all day long. And with the expanded 2 weeks to process ballots, we shouldn't have an issue on our end, at least getting all the mail ballots processed, all the mail ballots and absentees processed.
Okay,
We traditionally don't have any waiting lines. People move through quite smoothly. Do you suspect that'll be the case again as well, too? We shouldn't have any backups?
No, I really don't. There's been such a large increase in absentee ballots this year that, I mean, the primary turnout's always historically very low in it to begin with. And then with the large increase, 2 weeks ago, historically, statewide, the average was 16,000, roughly 16,000 absentee ballot applications. This year, it's over 350,000. So everybody's voting by absentee because nobody wants to go to the polling place. I mean, you're going to have your select few who like to go and actually push their ballot through the counter. We'll have masks there. They're going to be required to wear a mask just because of the government mandate. And there's gonna be spacing, everything involved. There's guidelines that's been out by the Secretary of State. So I mean, if there's gonna be a backup, it's just to be because of social distancing more than anything. But I don't foresee long wait lines, for the primary at least. We'll cross that bridge again when we get to the general this fall.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
anything else for Tyler?
Just had a quick question. Do we have an electronic roster?
We do not.
And to get one, or it's not necessary?
It's not necessary. We don't have to have them. It's nice to use. I've looked into them quite a bit. They're nice. It speeds up the polling place, and we only have three in-person polling places, 2 cities. And the upfront cost is not very much. It's about $5,000, but the continual cost after that for the maintenance is probably $10,000 to $15,000 every year. So for us, since we don't have a whole lot of in-person precincts, I don't recommend them. If we had half our county as in-person precincts, we would have gotten them a while ago.
Sure.
It's just, I don't see the returns of it really mattering. But it would be nice to utilize those for those funds, but like I said, the upfront cost is low. It's just the continual maintenance costs that they really gouge you on.
I was just curious since they mentioned it
Exactly, yeah, they're trying to push them, because a lot of the bigger, I mean, obviously, all the metro areas, they already have them, or people with really long thousands of people in their precincts, it's nice to have because it does speed up election day quite a bit. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Tyler.
Tyler will be back at 11 for the discussion on the CARES Act, too.
Okay. All right, go to Nick Bergman, the highway engineer.
Good morning.
Morning.
The first item I have today is the bridge bonding agreement for project SAP 59-618-36. That's the one we let 2 weeks ago. After letting, we have to send our bid prices into the state, and then they kind of finalize the paperwork to get the bond funds. So we need board approval for that, and then there's a resolution with it too to get those funds.
And Mr. Chairman, that resolution number is 59-26-20, listed as Exhibit E for the grant agreement to the State Transportation Fund for SAP 059-618-036.
Okay, we need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Luke made the motion.
Second.
Les seconded. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay,
Chris, are you there?
Chris
Yep,
is there.
I'm in favor.
Yep, he's here.
Here, okay, thank you. Okay, motion passes.
All right, next item I have, and this predates me a little bit, as county engineer. A number of years ago, the city applied for a TAP project. I believe that's Transportation Alternatives Project. It'd be for the Phase 3 of the Indian Lakes Trail. It's federal money. They were unable to get it because they're not a quote-unquote state aid city. They're too small, so the county had to sponsor the project. So the county agreed to do that. So, just moving forward with that, they had the bid opening on July 20th, but once the state gives us the green light to proceed with that, or gives them, either way, the county will technically have to award that. Just a heads up, that's probably coming up at the next meeting, so.
This is a project for next year? Or-
No, I believe they're gonna do it this year
They're
yet.
gonna do it this-
Yep.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I mean, you kind of have the whole loop
Right.
really at the end of this year, so.
Originally, they were gonna do it next year, weren't they?
I'd have to look, I'm pretty sure he said they were gonna do it this fall yet, but.
Oh, that'd be sweet.
Yeah, it would, yeah, definitely. But, more to come, there's a project we have to award that we didn't do the bid opening on, just wanted to give you all a heads up for that, so. Next item I have would be the Indian Lakes Trail, the curbing, all the concrete's done, they're actually out there seeding today. We've been running into some soils and water issues, I think it has to do with the bedrock up there, so, I just wanted to give you a heads up, there's some change orders with that. We're gonna have some extra costs to try to firm things up down there, so. How much that is now, I don't really know yet, but it won't affect my levy at all. We'll cover that with wheelage tax funds, so all the money's there that we need. Just wanted to let you know that it's gonna exceed the original cost, so. Next item I have would be, we have a contractor in now doing some paving. They're pretty on the fence about having extra time, but I'm trying to get them to do some patchwork for us. There's a patch needed over a box culvert by Holland. We need to do some work by the railroad tracks on County Road 4 by the elevator. Box culvert patch by Hatfield. Went over on County Road 3 by Murray County, and then try to do a little bit of leveling over that panel on the bridge by Edgerton. If they have time, they're thinking it's gonna be somewhere in the neighborhood of $6,000 a location to patch it. I don't, it's more expensive doing patchwork than mainline work. I don't know that that's too terribly out of line, so, I just wanted to give you a heads up. There might be a bill coming for that. You'll see that come through. If they do all of it, that might be 30,000-40,000. I don't know, but it's maintenance work. So it's.
Nick, is that patch, that job just west of Hatfield, isn't that part of the original bid to put the culverts in there? Or
No,
not?
we did not include bituminous with that.
Okay, that's fine. I just was pointing.
No, and then
Mr. Chair, I had a question for Nick as well too. The stuff involved in the railroads where they replace their crossings, is that a cost to us? Is that how the agreement's set up, or does the railroad pay for that?
They do. They do some work for it, but it's really bare minimum. Whatever's left, we have to take care of. We've been down this road with them before. They're just not interested in doing any more than that. I guess but I don't even get mad about it anymore. I just know that's how it is. They're just gonna get it barely passable, and then we're left making it decent, so. I think their stance, yeah, no problem. Their stance is they were there first, and, it shouldn't cost them any extra to keep operating, so. Unfortunately, that's just how it is with them, so.
So the county will go in.
I also had a question on the Indian Lakes Trail too, if you got a moment for
Yes,
that.
yep.
Because of the bedrock out there and the soil conditions and the possibility of erosion, have you considered maybe putting in aggregate there instead of black dirt and grassy?
If we mulch this after they'll work the soil, then they'll seed it, and then they'll spread some mulch on it, and then we're having them go over it with like a crimper, which kind of pushes it in the ground to hold it, to try to prevent washing. But, I think we'll get that seed established well, and that'll actually wash less than the aggregate once it gets established.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So, where was I at here? Okay, yeah, the bituminous patches, you might see a bill coming through for that. It's just maintenance work, but, and I'll report back on whatever we end up with. And, they suggested maybe us trying to do it ourselves. We just get in a mix from them, which is, another option too. I think there's some of it I'd like them to try, at least like the bridge by Edgerton, because we're trying to do a ride issue there. Maybe we'd try to do the ones where we're going to overlay it in a year or so, and it's, it's not as big of a deal. So, then the last item I have would be we budgeted for a new motor grader this year. We have not purchased that yet. This was the motor grader that had the engine failure under warranty, so I wanted to try to run it a little longer because I felt like our risk was down. If you look at your two major items is your engine, transmission, well, we didn't really have to worry about the engine anymore, so I felt like our risk was cut in half, so we should try to maybe run it a little bit longer, maybe up to another year or something, So we've been doing some looking on that, and the state bid price, if I remember right, I think it expired yesterday, but they said they would honor it until August 11th, whatever that next meeting is. So I guess at this point, I believe I told you I wanted to try to run it another year. But I think now I probably want to go ahead and order a new one on that August 11th. Because if we wait, we can still get this year's pricing, but if we wait till the first of the year like I was gonna do, well, then we're paying next year's pricing, and that's probably gonna be somewhere around $10,000 more than just ordering it now. So I think if you look at what you're getting out of your risk on it, like, I think we're probably just better off going ahead and getting prices and probably proceeding now. But, you know, if nothing else, we got a little over half a year extra out of it, so.
How long does it take to get one?
Kind of depends. I'm not really sure right now. I know trucks take a long time, blades are quicker, but I don't know who's ordering what right now, so they might have a couple sitting around somewhere too, you know, so I'm not really sure, but it's budgeted for this year. We got everything in there that we need to purchase it, so. Okay, well, we'll probably finish rounding up prices and I'll be back in August to proceed or check them out, so.
Okay. Sounds good.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I do have some questions for Nick, though. It appears as though in the last 4 or 5 years that the prices of these motor graders has really, really gone up. And I understand the philosophy of wanting to keep a newer fleet so that you've got some trading value, but we've seen the trading values on these just plummet. And I also understand the big ticket repairs, transmissions and engines. But in visiting with some of the other counties, and I was wondering if you've had discussions in your engineering group, I know not all counties take the same approach that we do as far as keeping very modern new motor graders. And I also realize it depends on what your use of them is, and I know it's very critical for our operations to have these things up and going all the time. We get a lot of hours on them. But I guess I liked your approach of trying to stretch another year out of this. So I guess I just wanted to enter that into the discussion that because they are so expensive, is it worth taking the risk? Because I don't know what would a transmission or engine repair cost. Are we talking $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 for a transmission?
Probably 20 to 30. It depends on how severe of a failure. I know for our size, you know, Pipestone County maintains a lot of miles, so that probably comes into the equation on comparing to other counties. Then, you know, we have one mechanic, and there's other counties that have multiple mechanics. So they have the availability to do some more of these repairs, et cetera, themselves. You know, versus we just, you know, don't have the time or it may be experience. I'm not, you know, it kind of depends on how severe it would be. But so that comes into our equation as well, the staff time.
Yeah, I fully appreciate the fact that it's a very difficult decision to make because, again, it is such a large ticket item. And if the machine runs fine for another couple of years, you look very intelligent. If it breaks down next year, you look pretty stupid. So it's pretty tough.
Yep.
All the dice.
Yep.
Crapshoot. Well, since we do have more maintenance roads than a lot of counties do, I do think that's definitely a factor too for us. And, you know, we've got double or triple what Rock has, I think.
Correct. Yeah, I think if you look at overall service to the, you know, all the residents of the county, I think Pipestone County is probably sitting at number one, you know, like
When you do
for
have
miles
your-
maintained, like you don't have to go very far around here to have access to a county maintained road, you know, and I think, you know, as times are going forward, you know, more people just really need to get out, you know, daily and I think it's really nice having that county reliability on these roads versus, you know, townships.
When you have your community meetings in the spring, you know, open your thing up at the.
Correct.
There's usually some taxpayers there that express their appreciation for the service that the county does do, because
Yep.
a lot of the counties don't do as well as Pipestone does.
Right.
For their townships and they're rural people, so I don't think you have much choice but to maintain your equipment unless you're gonna go out of business.
Yeah,
It
we,
doesn't seem like that's gonna be an option, so.
or a reduction in service, you know,
Yeah,
either way.
those
so.
are things you could do if you
Yeah.
really feel the need to, but,
Sure, the school buses appreciate it too.
well, there's that too, yeah.
And you use them year-round, correct? They're used in the
Yes.
wintertime for plowing snow and
Yep, and
spring,
we,
so it's four-season equipment, right?
Yep,
It's not
yep.
like it gets parked for 6 months.
right, and we use these, you know, all summer. These are the same blades we use all summer for maintaining roads, you know.
Where is
ones-
where is the oldest one now as far as location in the county?
Holland. Yep, that'd be the next one up.
I guess I'm in favor of keeping the rotation up, because if we push 1 year back, the whole system is
Yep.
pushed back.
Well, I think you should get some information and prices and see what's available. And
Yeah, I mean, if, we don't necessarily have to do it if you choose not to, but I'd at least get all the final prices so you know exactly what we'd be
If
up
there's
against.
a dozen of them sitting around someplace, and my price might reflect to that too, or
Huh,
maybe
They could, yeah.
6 months to get one too, we don't know, so.
And for what it's worth, we do not keep a spare motor grader. We have a spare truck. We'll use that for, spraying or whatever in the summertime, but we do not keep a spare motor grader, so that comes into the equation too.
How old is that machine up in Holland, and how many hours are on it?
I don't know right offhand. I'm guessing 7,000 hours would be my guess, and 7 years
Well,
old. I don't know. I'm kind of guessing there. It'd be ballpark.
Right. Yeah, why don't you take a look at that and bring that to us when you get the bids and so forth, we can
Yeah.
look at it, but,
Yeah, I'll get you the year and all the hours and et cetera off that Holland machine. So
and maybe some studies as far as anticipated hours. 7,000 hours doesn't sound like much for that kind of equipment, but see how that compares.
yeah, I'm familiar with the tractor world, so I would think they'd be somewhat similar, but I've been here almost 13 years, and we've had 3 engine failures I can think of. And, they all are in about that end of life. So I think, Dave kind of had that set up pretty good about getting rid of them right before you start to run into the major repairs. So I've probably seen, I don't know, probably 10, 12 of those things come and go, in my time here, and, 3 of them have had engine failures, I think 2 of the 3 are under warranty, so, I think we're probably cutting it pretty close there, the way it is, but I could look some more at it too, but that's just my shoot from the hip response, I guess, so.
Sure, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, Nick, anything else for us today?
No, that's all I had. Did anybody have any other questions for me, or?
When do you think the Indian Lakes Road will be done?
Well, they
Like a
started,
September date or something that? they were-
yeah, I think they have to be done September 1st or September 15th, something like that. They started paving on 13 yesterday, or last night, whatever you want to call it. It was pretty late when they got started. He was thinking they'd be done on 13, the end of this week. I don't see that happening personally. I'm guessing late Monday, but he should know more than I do about what they can do in a day, so we'll see. It all really depends on how many trucks they get, but.
Weather.
Yeah, in the weather, yep. But I think they'll be on to 13 right after, or 67 right after that. If you recall, we're going straight east from that project on our County Road 30, and that's pretty rough. I don't really know why I'm not sure why that's so rough, but we're putting a leveling course on that first to help with the ride. So, if they produce like they're thinking, it might be all paved the end of next week, really, so. But, it all depends on weather, and if we run into any more soft spots, we have to repair out there, but
Sure,
soon. I mean, they should have no problem making that deadline, so.
excellent.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So,
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you.
All right, have a good day.
Contractor started on the Highway 75 bridge
Um,
at the railroad.
see, they got it closed.
Oh.
So I see there's some equipment sitting there, but
There, okay, good.
I haven't driven down there to see. I mean, I'll probably check it out once we get caught up on some other things, so. Oh, and then, one more thing I should add, I guess our County Road 86, the water is starting to drop on it a little bit.
Really?
Yeah. Hopefully that's a permanent thing. It's down close to a foot, actually. I've been keeping tabs on it. Last year, and I marked it in May, and it's down close to a foot since then, so.
A couple feet to go.
Well, yeah, a couple feet to go, but at least it's headed the right direction.
Yeah.
And then I have a on-site meeting with DNR scheduled out there for tomorrow, so hopefully we'll hear something good from them, or, so. All right, well, that's all I had, so.
Thank you.
Yep, have a good day.
I'll get your signatures and give you this right away.
Oh, perfect.
Okay, right there. Right there. And I think that's it.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we have something with Southwest Health,
They will be in at
10:30.
10:30, so.
The Pipestone CARES Act at 11. Do you want to talk about budget planning at all in the meantime?
For a few minutes, if that's all right. Had discussion with Sandy via email yesterday. There are 5 departments that don't have their budgets in yet, so have to get those this week. They'll have to be in. So what I'm looking at is very similar to what we did last week. So I will get the printout as soon as I get the budgets in. I got a preliminary one missing the 5 that are out, that are still out. If you want a copy, I'll give it to you, but unless you want to just wait and get the whole thing, it's entirely up to
We can
you.
wait and get the whole thing.
That's fine. So what I'm looking at, very similar to what we did last year, I would like to schedule budget work sessions with department heads in the afternoon after our August 11th meeting, since we're here anyway, if that would work for the board. And then do the same thing we did last year on the 18th. That would be the 3rd. So that would be a special meeting on the 18th to do a budget meeting. And since we could do that in the morning, since we don't have a regular meeting that day, if that would work for you guys. And then also on the 25th, since that's a regular board meeting day, we'll have to do it if there's, usually that's not as busy of a meeting. If we can get a few departments in during the morning, that would be fine. I realize you have hospital board in the afternoon on that, correct yet? On the 25th. So we'll do that at board meeting. And if we need another one, we can do one at the September 8th meeting as well. We don't have to have our preliminary budget and levy adopted until the 30th. So my planning would be to do it on the 22nd. So that gives us basically, 1, 2, 3, 4 meetings for sure. And then if we need to do anything on the 22nd, we can still do that as well. So does that sound reasonable to everybody?
Yep.
So we'll work on that, and I'll get with the departments that don't have the budgets in and get a fire lit and get it done. So we'll get them in. It sometimes goes a little slow. I know Casey's one of them. She's out on maternity leave, so she's trying to figure out how to get that done, and I've offered my help to do that. I can always help her out with the budget as well for EM and EMS, so I'm happy to do that. So questions or comments? Chris, Dan, anybody? Dan's doing thumbs up. Chris is thumbs up.
Okay.
So we'll get her. That's all I have on the budget, Mr. Chairman, for right now.
Thank you.
This time I don't have anything else here, so I recommend go to recess until
10:30.
Yep, till Southwest Mental Health gets here. If they get here a little early, we'll start a little early too. So we're gonna go into recess.
back in session. We have some people from Southwest Health to address the board.
Jeremy and Luke, can you guys hear us?
Yes, I can. This is Jeremy Adler.
Okay. Go ahead, you guys, whenever you're ready. Glad to have you guys here. This is great.
Okay, yeah, thanks for having us. Chris Hollingsworth, Luke Como is our new executive director. The three of us met a couple weeks ago in my office just to kind of talk about the new building plans and to say thanks to Chris and to all of you guys for the support and stuff. And then Chris had invited us to this meeting this morning to talk a little bit. And I can let Luke introduce himself here briefly if you want, Luke.
Sure. Very good. Well, good morning, everybody, and great to meet all of you. And as Jenny said, thank you for all that you have done to support Southwestern mental health. They're in the Pipestone region, and just looking forward to working with all of you. And met with Chris and Jeremy just last week or so, and just kind of talked through some of the initial plans and hopeful planning ahead of potentially putting a different building in place and moving out of our current facility into something different there within Pipestone, and just looking forward to working with all of you. So I am the new executive director at Southwestern Mental Health and assumed the full-time position here in mid-June.
Great.
Jeremy, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Jeremy Adler. I am the Pipestone office manager here at our Pipestone location. I'm a licensed therapist. I am a clinical supervisor too, so I train new therapists just coming out of grad school. I've been licensed for about 7 years now. So I do all kinds of outpatient therapy from little kids age 2 or 3 all the way on up to about 92. And then everything in between, marriage therapy, family therapy, troubled teens. So I've been in the office since 2011 here, and then just kind of worked my way through some different programs. I took over as the office manager last July for Jerry Johnson. She was the previous manager. And yeah, just kind of wanted to touch base with everybody this morning. And as Luke said, thank you for your support, and looking forward to working with you guys as we go into the future with any projects. Do you guys have any questions for us at all, or any updates?
Anybody have anything to share, Les or Luke? Or?
Well, this is Les. I just know that the building that you're in is getting in a bad state of repair, and I don't think the county wants to put any more money into that. At this point, we've got this property across the street where we tore Central School down, and we have talked about maybe doing a building there in the southeast corner of the property, along with a bunch of other buildings. We've got other things in the county that we can place there too. So we were working with it, and then COVID hit, and everything kind of just come to a stop. So I think we're probably another year out before we really look at anything serious, which is probably a good deal to give that ground a chance to settle out, because it was just last year that we tore the school down. So I think it's good to have the property set another year. So, Dan, you got anything to add?
Not specifically as far as building and so forth. We have looked at some various site plans for that development of that entire block and a half area. So everything's just very tentative now. We've kicked around ideas of USDA and some other things as well too, but those are all just in the talking stages at this point. Other Southwest mental health questions though, Unity House, can you give us an update on where you're at with Unity House?
Sure, I can say in about the last 2 to 3 months, we've been pretty much at capacity, which would be 9 residents. It's kind of varied between 7 and 9, but it has not dropped below 7 for a long time. I came on as the interim executive director in February and was part-time in essence through those 4 or 5 months, and then I became full-time in mid-June, but when I came on in February, numbers were a little bit lower, but it's been very consistent and steady in the last 3 to 4 months.
My understanding was that you could not staff it completely, is why your numbers were down. So apparently you got that turned around. That's good news.
Yes, we do. We're able to get staffing in place.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, you bet. I will just piggyback off that and say, in regards to mental health services, first and foremost, it's a critical need in all communities, and has been very consistent in the breadth of services that we provided. But since COVID has hit, it's just given us a new appreciation and a new surge, if you would, in regards to people seeking those services. As we know, we kind of seem to be in our 185th day of our 2-week quarantine, if you would, and so we went into this thinking if we can just get through 2 weeks or maybe a month, and now for many of us, it is the reality that 2020 is going to be based on COVID, and individuals who struggled with mental health prior to or just have come to realization that this is a tough year. People are reaching out for mental health services and possibly never have before. And so we know on the news and everything is very much medical based, and the numbers in regards to the cases and deaths, unfortunately, which is all serious and pertinent information. But we know the wave of individuals struggling with mental health is there and is coming, and that we're dealing with. And so, Jim, I'm going to just have you just piggyback off that just for a brief moment and kind of what you've seen here in the last few months.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, Luke. So I know our numbers have been climbing here since probably April or May in the Pipestone office specifically. We're getting more calls each week about people that either want to return to therapy or brand new clients that are just struggling with some of the factors that they're dealing with related to COVID, with anxiety, isolation, just a lot of unknowns in the future. Could be related to employment, social relationships, and other things. So June picked up a little bit more. And then yesterday, I think we had 5 or 6 new referrals come in. So, that's good for us in a way, but also is just indicative of the way things are right now.
One of the positives that we can take from that, though, is just the social acceptance. People willing to reach out for help. We realize that there's a lot of pressures and demands with COVID and everything else in conjunction with it, financial. But I am encouraged that people are being more enlightened when it comes to their opinions about mental health. That's good news.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, definitely.
Through our statewide agency, we're also working with Health and Human Services on waivers, both state and federal. Have any of those Health and Human Services, waivers, helped you with your dealing with the clients, or with it being in-house? It's not, well, you got both in-house and here as well. So, Jeremy, has it been beneficial? And any of those waivers, would you like to see some of those continued permanently?
I guess I can't speak too much to any of the waivers. Luke, do you know more about that?
Are you speaking about like the telemedicine waivers?
That probably more with our social services as far as requirements for actual in-person meetings and so forth. And then also, I know it's a myriad of things also involves SNAP and some of the other things that aren't directly related to what you guys work with. But it's been a very big issue that we've worked with through this Blue Ribbon Committee through our AMC organization.
Mm-hmm. I think, I don't have the evidence, I just have anecdotal evidence, but it's actually something I've mentioned to my team at work in regards to be a great dissertation for a doctorate degree or whatever in regards to the efficacy of telemedicine. I think what we've seen is that with the opening of waivers and the allowance of individuals to be seen through things like Zoom and other telemedicine modalities, we're able to reach people at a time and a need and a place in their life where maybe they wouldn't be able to come in. Maybe it's because they were sick, or whatever reason it is. Now, do I think it's the end-all, be-all? No, not at all. I think there's clients out there that they went through 3 or 4 weeks or 5 weeks of doing it through Zoom, and what we saw is they kind of a pushback, and it was like, hey, when can I come in and be seen face-to-face? And so, we at Southwestern closed our services to face-to-face services, I want to say somewhere around early April or so, but by, I think it was June 11th or so, we reopened back to face-to-face so that those who needed to be seen could be seen. I think the blessing would be if we could keep that hybrid moving forward. I think you'll always have people that need to be seen face to face. But those that, hey, I'm at home sick, and it's not even a COVID issue. Hopefully we're in 2022 and we don't even say it's COVID anymore, but hey, I've got the flu or something, can I just be seen through telemedicine? Having that waiver in place would be just huge. I know another thing that we've talked about is when it comes to winter, this really could open up the fact that we don't have to close for snow days. Why can't we provide services when it's snowing like crazy out and the person needs to be seen? That the individual can possibly do it from home. The clinician could do it from home because we can't make it into our offices or whatever. That individual could still be seen. So I think if I could wave my magic wand, is having those waivers to allow telemedicine it's critical for individuals out there to be seen. So I think it's looking for the hybrid where people can still be seen face to face, or somehow it's written in that you're required to be face to face every 2 months or so. It just can't be solely telemedicine. But having that there as an option is just vital for people.
That opinion is pretty much universally shared throughout the state, and we are hoping that some of these waivers will become permanent. So we realize with some of the child protection, there is still that need for the actual home visit. So some of those won't be extended or even made permanent, but there is a lot of support for just exactly what you're saying with telemedicine and some of those other issues. So hopefully that'll be a positive outcome of the COVID experience.
And I agree, and I mentioned that to my team and all those individuals at Southwestern, is I think there's some huge benefits out of COVID that can come out of this, which is providing services through a different way, looking at things differently, and looking at ways that we can meet the need. And I'll use telemedicine as the one example that we would say in the past, no, that can't be done. So let's look at what we can do to grow out of this to provide services for people.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
And thank you, Jeremy.
You're welcome.
A big reason we facilitated this today is because both Luke and Jeremy were questioning about the possibility of a new building, and with me no longer in Building and Grounds Committee, I really don't know where things stand. That's where I thought it'd be a good opportunity to, get together, and I think there needs to be ongoing dialogue too, because not only do we need to put up a building, but we need to match the needs of Southwestern mental health too. And so I think the dialogue should include at least Luke, if not Jeremy as well, and moving forward with that. So I thought this would be a good setting to talk about where our plans are. So
I agree.
I appreciate that commitment, Chris, and just with everybody in there and Les and all this just help moving this forward, because I agree, the need is there. And so it's just, I know it'll take time, but let's keep moving it forward. And please feel free to reach out to Jeremy and I if you have any questions.
We'll be talking in the near future here. I got a couple other things I need to run past Jeremy and you too, Luke, on some other things that are happening, so.
Sounds like a plan, Les.
Okay.
Yeah, feel free to reach out.
You bet. I'll probably be talking to you sometime tomorrow.
Okay, yeah, definitely. Give us a call or shoot me an email, whatever works.
Okay, thank you.
All right. All right, thanks a lot, Chris. Thanks, everybody else.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming on video with us. We
have a good day.
thanks for coming, guys.
worked out well.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, do we want to move on to the County CARES Act grant program?
Tyler, see if he can buzz down here. Yep, if you are. Can you swing down? Okay, good, thanks. Bye. He'll be right down. In case anyone is interested, you probably got a message on it. SRDC is doing a CARES Act Zoom meeting tomorrow. Did you guys all get that invitation?
Yep.
Anybody want a copy of it? So if you want to log on or something and take it, it's 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, I had already registered for that.
Okay.
Tomorrow.
You're planning to sit in on that?
Yeah. Yeah, if anybody else wants to come down, we just do it right in here too. We could just have everybody's, if you want to meet like that. Hey, Tyler. I sent that to you too, that's the Zoom meeting tomorrow.
Oh,
with
yes, I was
SRDC.
wondering what that was. Okay. I'm guessing they're gonna request money.
Yeah, see what they gonna do with us, so. There are nothing but Zoom meetings like virtually every other day on this thing.
Well, it's pretty complicated. I mean, there's a lot
Mac
of
is-
moving parts.
Administrators have one tomorrow through AMC at 9 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the afternoon with SRDC. Things just keeps right on.
Mm-hmm.
And longer we sit here, the more it changes too.
Yep.
So what I put together so far, and Tyler's been working on it very well on the funding aspect of what we've spent and that type of things. But just to bring everybody up to speed on where we're at and what's going on, there's a page in your packet. And our CARES Act funding is that we received a check, and Tyler already has it, for $1,103,627 is in our account right now.
Correct.
There is a supplemental amount of $54,923 that corresponds below with the government units under 200 populations, so we got their money. Anyone greater than 200 population, they got their own money. So City of Pipestone, Edgerton, Jasper, any townships that had over 200 people, they got their own funding to deal with. If they use it or not is up to them. One of the issues with this is how do we get the money out to the townships? Rock County said, we've got it, we're just going to send it out to you. Go ahead and use it and send it back. AMC has sent out a form that they like the idea of a form that you send out to see if they want the money. And also if they want to use it, and if they don't want it, we can use it. So that's what it comes back down to, so.
And I can speak to that
Yeah, go ahead.
briefly quick. I've been contacted by a couple of townships, excuse me, who have expressed the desire to not even receive their money. So, not because they don't feel it's good, they just don't really have a whole lot of expenses for this. They feel like it'd be better spent at the county level. I will say one of those is a township that we did not receive the money for. So I don't know if they're gonna be applying for it or not, because you do have to apply to get the money. So whether they apply or not, it's up to them. I said they can apply and they can just toss the money onto us if they want. It's completely up to them. But some of the townships that are smaller or smaller cities, like we don't really have a whole lot of expenditures. So I think that would be a good idea to have some type of form to send out first to see if I even need to cut them a check.
Right.
And give them a week or so to respond and then go from there.
Yeah, that would be my recommendation, is just to allow me to send out the form and a letter to each of the townships that are on the list here and see if they want their money and let them respond back to us. And if they do, they can utilize the form from AMC that I just received and keep track of their expenses. 'Cause we're not gonna keep track of their expenses for them. We'll just have to have it on hand here, and it's a nice little form where they can put what they bought, what they haven't bought, that type of thing. So if that's right, I'd like to go ahead and do that. We'll get that out right away.
For some, for a smaller dollar amount, it might not be worth keeping track.
Right, I mean, by law, they would have to keep track if they get the money, if they spend it.
Right. I mean,
Right, exactly,
it'd be
like
easier
a lot
for
of.
the county to do it, where we have to do it already.
Right. I mean, I'm guessing we're gonna run into that issue with the smaller cities too, where they don't really have a whole lot of, I mean, their city offices aren't even open majority of the time. They don't have a whole lot of stuff. So I'm guessing they're probably not gonna want to even have the money and just kind of take themselves out of the equation completely. But I guess we'll cross that bridge, but I kind of expect that to happen for sure, so.
I could see possibly the towns that have first responder squads, fire departments, they may have spent money on personal protective equipment, and that would obviously be, or cleaning supplies, that type of thing. I know that Casey has been distributing masks and face shields and things like that, and gloves to anyone who needs it, so a lot of that is there. So, you know, you would have the Holland and the Woodstock, and that's of the list here. Otherwise, they'll be getting their own money through the city, so Trotsky doesn't have any responders, nobody else does. So Holland and Woodstock on this list would be the only ones that have fire department first responders on this. But that's not to say, obviously, the townships on here do pay for fire service through their localities. So if the fire service or first responder squad say they needed more money from those townships, they could go ahead and say, well, we bought an expensive piece of cleaning equipment, that type of thing. They could certainly use it for that. Beyond that, things that we've spent money for going down the list here, I don't have any dollar amounts in there because we don't have them yet, but we've spent money on county IT upgrades, connectivity, telecommuting, office IT upgrades, boardroom, and community room remote video connectivity. That's one project we're working in right now to get funding for that and pricing for that for us. Bill, I believe, has Bill given you anything?
He's given me a list. That's roughly 10,000 as of now, but that does not include the switches and everything else that we're thinking about implementing for people to work at home. So our IT costs could be increasing rather significantly once that kicks in. Everything else, I mean, we're probably just completely not really guessing, just kind of spitballing 35,000 roughly. I need to finish going through with all the departments. I have some questionable things from all the way back to March, if it's coronavirus related or not, before I transfer it over the expenses. So I'll have a lot more information when we sit down and have a discussion. I'll have a firm number of what we spent, plus some additional items that we could charge to if we wish. It's just completely up to you guys. So.
And on the second bullet, we have spent money on COVID supplies, equipment for sanitizing, for cleaning, sanitizing our air handler system, for plexiglass barriers, personal protective equipment, and jail expenses, EMS, emergency management supplies and equipment. So we do have a lot of those costs. And if Tyler's got the dollars, that should be part of that 35 he's talking about.
Right, exactly. I mean, if we're going to do I'll include all of it. So, I mean, especially if we're going to include the duct cleaning, I mean, that's going to be a large chunk of money.
Yep.
So.
And jail expenses, we did during the first couple months of this, the sheriff did move inmates from the jail to the Nobles County Jail because we're working only here with one person upstairs. So there was no way we could do dispatching in jail at the same time with one person when we were in those first couple months of dark days of this thing.
Heck, we might want to have the second phase of that air handling clean out done. Didn't we only do a portion of it?
We did the second half also.
Oh, we did?
They're working on the courthouse last week.
Oh, okay.
So that's moving forward too. So we'll have the whole thing done.
Oh, good.
So that'll be done.
Steve, this is Dan.
Go ahead.
I know Southwest Health and Human Services is looking for some allocation for CARES Act money as well too. So I know we're talking about hardware kind of items here, but we also need to factor in what we need to do there with both the various social programs we got, whether it be income maintenance for those that have lost their jobs because of COVID or other things. So to say that some of the townships don't have any expenses when you're looking at hardware perhaps, but they still have social expenses.
Right, but those social expenditures are handled by Southwest Health and Human Services, and they did submit a funding estimate to Pipestone County, and they're requesting basically $92,000 from Pipestone County for their whole system-wide. Their total cost, they estimated at $725,000 at Health and Human Services. So they're splitting that up between the 6 counties based on population. So our share of that would be $92,000 roughly.
Right. And that money that Southwest is looking for the counties for is to cover everything, not just hardware items, but also programs as well.
That is correct. It's salaries, essential services, IT, and travel and agency prevention measures is what the headings are that they used on that. And I'll send this out to everybody too, so you all have a copy of it, but that is figured in here too. So we're looking at $92,000 Pipestone County share back to Southwest Health and Human Services. So again, they're looking for $725,000 from all the 6 counties totally. The next part on this is to start thinking about if we want to use money to provide grants for profit businesses or nonprofits. There wasn't anything that made it through the governor's list that said we had to do it, but everything I've been reading, the minimum of 10% is a number that is really common to do out there. I know Rock County did $500,000 in grants up to $5,000 for for-profits, and they did $175,000 in grants, up to $5,000 for their nonprofits as well. So that's a number that we need to come up with if we want to share this money with our struggling businesses, and I think that might make sense. That's, a lot of this money should go there, in my estimation anyway. The board agrees with that or not, but that should be where a large chunk of this money should go. Granted, we don't have a lot of money to do huge grants to keep them whole, but it might be something to help them as they were struggling and get them through another month or two or whatever. But that, something like that would go a long ways to doing this and helping them out. And that's not to say that there aren't businesses out in the townships that could benefit from this too. There are some mom and pop shops out there that are doing things, at farm sites and businesses. This does not take into account ag producers. There's 2 programs for ag that are being taken care of at the state level. So this would not be a direct to an ag producer for loss of income due to COVID, due to animals, or having no ability to take your animals to market. There are other programs dealing with that. So we're not jumping into that one on this grant at all. And then basically lastly I've got on here is reserve for later spending. We don't know how long this is going to last. We looked at Les's phone this morning, and there's this, apparently the federal Senate is looking at something called the HEALS, HEALS Act now, and part of that is to extend the deadline for use of the CARES Act dollars into 2021 at some point, but we'll see if that we don't know where we're at now.
25% for lost revenue.
Yeah, and lost revenue, which wasn't in this at all, so. But I guess my recommendation now is that with Tyler and I'd like to recommend like 1 or 2 commissioners so we could actually sit down and do a little task force and planning with this and come back to the board with a recommendation of what we want to do with this. We need to do all 5 at any given time, because then we have to have meetings on it, but just have a commissioner or 2 on this where we can get together and make a committee of it, temporary committee of it, and I don't know how many meetings we'll have, but authorize that for a per diem. We can get that authorized. That shouldn't be a problem, obviously. But I think that would be the best way, so that we're not having to try to do this at a formal meeting all the time, where we can just sit down and drill into what we want to do and come back with recommendations. I mean, we do have some time, but the time goes by really fast.
Yeah, it does.
And we're also moving into budget season, which makes us a lot busier as well, too. So, but
For the profit producing, tax-paying people in the county, is there any way we could have a linkage to reduce property taxes by a certain percent?
Nope.
Other than just give out money, if you could just reduce their expenses, that would make more sense to me.
No, there isn't a way that we could do that. That's all by state law. So this is a separate funding by the federal government. So, that we would be violating state statute if we were trying to do something like that. And I will say, just to kind of speak to this, I've talked to a lot of area auditor treasurers about this, who are kind of maybe a couple weeks ahead of us. And I will say that it might be different in this county, but I don't think this money is going to stick around very long. I know Rock County's pretty much completely full with their applicants. And Lyon County is getting close to there, and a couple other counties that I've talked to personally, they're getting a lot of applications for these grants. And the money isn't, I don't think it's going to be a problem. Obviously, it depends on how much you guys want to set aside for grants compared to county expenditures, compared to Health Southwest Human Services. That's what we really need. We need to know exactly how much money, how many grants we can give out, so on and so forth, so we can get this going and get this money out to people as fast as possible. But yeah, Bruce, I do agree with that. That would be a better way of doing it, but just the way that this is all set up, it's essentially just a blank check. They have to keep track. I have a sample grant application where they have to keep track of all their expenditures. That would take care of our subrecipient monitoring, and then if they were ever to get audited, they would just have to provide those documents at that time. So we wouldn't have to, there's not a ton of legwork as far as making sure the money's spent correctly on our end, so.
Right. And like Tyler said, there are good templates for applications. I've got a couple of them done already, one for application for the for-profits and the nonprofits, and then a resolution that the board would adopt to do the program as well for authorizing the grant. So it just comes down to, you know, simple math. X amount of dollars, how much you want to spend, lets you know how many you can do.
Exactly.
I mean, Rock County, the way they set it up with theirs at 500,000, that basically got them 100 for-profit grants, and they did 175,000 for the nonprofits. That got them basically 35. I mean, it doesn't go a long ways when you're really looking at it.
But this would be for like smaller, like
Small
say mom
businesses.
and pop businesses that
Right.
wouldn't qualify for PPP funding when that was available.
Yep.
Yep.
And we have a lot of those businesses.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, there's lots of shops, restaurants, that type of thing, small businesses. I mean, every, you know, basically, barber shop, hair salon, beauty shop was closed for months. I mean,
Right.
they couldn't let anybody in, you know, restaurants too. You know,
Steve and Tyler, do you know, could any of this be used for our broadband expansion into the county? We know if people work from home, that's been a major issue, has been access to the internet.
If it was budgeted for a particular purpose, we budgeted that money for that purpose, then no. If we earmarked it in our budget saying we're gonna spend money on a broadband before COVID came out, we can't spend it on that because we cannot say it's COVID related. That's just how it's worded. They're trying to limit to at least COVID, so you're not just spending it on anything you possibly want. So since we already kind of earmarked that for that purpose, it'd be kind of hard to justify spending it for that. Even though it does benefit the COVID related stuff,
Right.
we declared it before COVID came around.
there are lots of organizations out there that I was just going through making a list, and I briefly talked about it last time we had a board meeting. But, you know, if money was no object, I mean, we've got a public hospital here that they may need some money from this too. They obviously got a pocket of money through the CARES Act as well on their side too, but there might be other expenses as well. We've got Health and Human Services. Obviously, we could have the schools. School districts could possibly use some money. Rock County was going to do a project assisting them with helping with like Chromebooks that were damaged, that they didn't have a funding source to fix, something like that. I don't know if that went through, but they were talking about that as well.
I'll just speak to that. I have been contacted by the Edgerton Public School District to see if there's some type of funding that we could assist them with. So they have reached out.
Good place to go with some of it, the fire departments, the EMS,
Yep.
people, the local clinics that we have in the county.
Yeah.
Those are things that all the population of the county benefits from.
Right.
Not just picking and choosing a few goodies to hand out. It would be more.
Yep.
And the libraries could probably use some money for some shielding and stuff. And, you know, there are some areas that we could,
Yep.
There's lots of them out there.
without, you know, picking and choosing who's gonna get the goodies, you know.
Right. Yep.
It's a lot of money, but it
Doesn't go very far.
when you start,
It doesn't.
you know, you start doing it.
When you're trying to spread it across so many different uses, it doesn't go very far. You know, it's a nice little supplement to people. Obviously, it's not going to save. It'll be help the schools. It'll help everybody. I mean, it's money from the federal government. You'd love to have it, but it's not an end all be all solution. That's for sure.
So any, at this time, a couple of commissioners want to volunteer to help us out and be part of this so we can do some strategic planning and get this going on this?
Steve, I think I would be willing to serve on that.
Okay. Anybody else? If not, one's fine, so. Les? Okay.
Gotta keep Tyler straight.
Right, exactly. Honestly, the more people, the better for something like this. I mean, it's such a broad impact to the entire county. I think the more voices, the better. I mean, this is, like you said, it's over $1 million that we're determining where we're gonna be spending this. So I think the more input we have from everyone, the better.
Well, there's a lot of public entities that could use, you know, like
Correct.
you're saying, libraries, even swimming pools. You know, there's a lot of things that could use a little bit of
Assistance. Yep.
to improve it.
Is there any thought, I noticed one of the things they list are consumer grants to prevent eviction or assist in preventing homelessness. You know, like say somebody that was forced out of work and then can't make their rent or mortgage payments.
Is that something Health and Human Services provides? I'm actually asking, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Help there.
Is there?
Yeah.
A lot of those people are already getting help, and they've getting unemployment and all kinds of things already anyway.
That could be.
Yeah, some of them are making more money than did working.
I don't know how much you're seeing of grants to individual people for living day to day. It'd be more giving the grant money to the organizations that help fund those people. Where ours is gonna be profit businesses, suffering businesses, that type of thing, where we have
Right,
those
because a
small
lot of
dollars.
them didn't qualify for anything.
Exactly, right.
Right.
Yep.
But a lot of businesses have already received money that they have applied for and gotten some money, and some of them don't quite dare spend it yet because they don't know how much they're gonna have to give back. You know, there's all this.
I'm assuming if you qualified for like PPP, you wouldn't be tapping into this also.
I wouldn't think so.
I think so. I wouldn't, yeah.
I mean, you already got.
It's, I mean, obviously, it's a lot of complex, there's a lot of moving parts where a lot of these smaller businesses probably don't have a whole lot of expertise in this stuff. And I'm willing to, I mean, I can help anybody that I possibly can with kind of understanding this portion of it at least, exactly what would qualify and what wouldn't qualify, to point them in the right direction of what funding pots they should be kind of going for, so, yeah. Because it definitely is a lot of moving parts, there's a lot of separate, like I just came down for elections, you know, I mean, it's just a bunch of little subplots of money that certain things qualify for certain items, so.
We had one individual call me from a county or a township and said, we're gonna get so much money, we don't have anything to spend it on. We can't spend it on roads and bridges.
No, we cannot.
And he said the grant indicated that if they didn't use the money, they should send it to the county.
They have to, but, yeah, they have to.
So that would,
Yeah, they
that
have
would
to.
be, but, you know, in some cases, they don't know what to do with the money anyway, so they're.
Right, yep, so I mean, and it's, I guess I would recommend those, I mean, I know like one township said that they would have to go through a lot of process, getting a SAM's number and everything to be able to apply for it. I mean, it'd be nice to get an extra, I mean, the grand scheme of things, if none of those smaller or those bigger townships or anything, we could potentially have 1.158 million to spend. I mean, it's up to them whether they apply for it or not. I mean, we have no say in it whatsoever. I mean, but if they want to, and then they can just toss the money onto us, I'm more than willing to help them with that process to get, the more the merrier for things like this, the more people we can help, I think the better. So I personally don't want to leave money out there, but like I said, we can't force them to apply for things, so.
I do have a question, just out of curiosity. I noticed there was an article in the Sunday paper about Anoka County allocating their CARES money. And it mentioned that one of the things they were going to spend money on was 3 additional trucks. And the only thing I could think of is if you were, say, going to use that for somebody doing contact tracing or something,
Right.
you know, where it was just dedicated to that purpose. Can you think of any other reason why there would be a need for a vehicle?
The sheriff said something at the department head or things like that. I don't know if you're using it to go out and test, maybe. I mean, if it's a non-budget expenditure that you're having, like if you're, like say our sheriff's office, you know, we're not budgeting to buy a vehicle this year, but we need a vehicle to go out and do contact tracing or do testing, that expenditure would qualify. Because it's not money that you didn't budget for it.
Right.
It was an expenditure that is only because of COVID, we could spend them on that purpose. So I'm maybe testing things like that where they weren't expecting these and they just have to go out in the neighborhood to assist with COVID, or if they're going around doing training, things like that, that would qualify. Yep.
Well,
Yep.
we do have one on order for that purpose already. We ordered one this morning,
Oh, there you go.
and it wasn't budgeted.
If it wasn't budgeted and it's strictly for COVID, then it works. Or if it's COVID related, I mean, there are guidelines on how we have to spend this money, but I will say it's also vague at the same time. So there is some wiggle room, but if you declared, like the broadband, like if you actually declare we're spending this money in this budget on this item before COVID came around, it's not gonna qualify.
It's a nice problem to have, having some extra money floating
Correct.
around, but the difficult part's gonna be to make it fair for everybody.
Exactly, and
This
that's,
guy, and then two doors down, this guy, well, I never knew anything about that, I didn't get anything, or, so
yep.
there's that.
And there's definitely gonna be some letting the public know exactly what's gonna happen. I mean, personally, I feel this is my 2 cents. If we were to give grants for profit, it's gonna be a first come, first served basis. I don't think we should have any choice in who gets it and who doesn't get it. If you're gonna give out 100, first 100 to apply, get it. That's my stance on it. But, because then you're taking yourself out of the choosy.
You're not determining the needs everybody has, they're just saying, well, I'd like to have some, but I've already got 200,000 in my bank account.
Correct.
That,
Yep.
that person doesn't need that help.
Correct. And I completely understand it. Yep.
That's the deal.
And that is the hard part with this, because we can't verify that information. All we can do is request, they have to tell us what they're gonna spend the money on. As long as it gets spent on that and it's approved, it qualifies.
But you can set some limits. It
We can
says,
set some limits,
as far
correct.
as like number of employees or
Yeah,
amount of
yeah.
gross
Revenue, right, you can't say, yeah, I have this much money in the bank, things like that. But,
Right.
yeah, you can set certain limits, income limits, so on and so forth. We can do that. That's just our grant, whatever, how strict we wanna make the grant. That's completely up to us, so.
And I suppose
I'd
like,
to stress is doing as much nonprofit work with it as we can, because the
Yep.
profit side of it, a lot
Correct.
of that's being taken care of by other programs anyway.
Yep.
We've got schools, we've got libraries, we've got EMS, we've got fire departments, we've got a lot of things we could do that could easily
Benefit from the funds.
but it benefits everybody. And,
Correct.
That, to me, that would be the way to go with it.
I suppose one option, just kind of tie into the broadband question, say if the schools decided they had to go remote learning versus in person, and you had a part of the county that maybe didn't have adequate Wi-Fi, and you had to set up a Wi-Fi hotspot so a certain number of students could get access, that would be a legitimate
That would
use of money.
qualify. That would qualify because they have to do that because of COVID. They're not going to school, they're doing remote learning because of the pandemic. Yep, so that, and it's a not budget item, yes. So something like that, that would qualify.
Okay,
Yep.
We're sitting in the right position with school just around the corner too.
right.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think they'll know until it gets closer to the time.
Well, 3 weeks down the road.
But the way things have been in some places, that can make a lot of difference. Depending on how people handle themselves in the meantime.
Okay, do we have to talk about anything else at this point? We've got sort of a committee, Les and Dan are gonna meet with Steve and Tyler.
Tyler, and we'll get going that way, and
We'll set up a
Some
meeting.
ideas.
set up a meeting, and we
Separately
can come up
and-
with a plan, and
Perfect.
so we want to get our communications out to our townships. And please remember, too, that everybody on this list that you didn't see got their own funding.
Right.
So like City of Edgerton, City of Pipestone,
Jasper.
they got their own as well.
Yep.
And they can give it to their library or their whatever, too.
Yes, they can, and their first
Fire departments
responders,
and
their
stuff, so,
ambulances,
yeah.
and fire departments as well, too.
Yep.
So they have that. Double dipping things can get a little bit convoluted here, because
Yes.
technically, if someone was going to get a grant, say it was in the city of Pipestone, they could ask the city of Pipestone for a grant, they could ask the county of Pipestone for a grant, as long as, in my mind, as long as their expenses showed that if they got 5 from us and 5 from the city, that their expenses were greater than $10,000.
Correct. Because
You can't double dip and, make money on the thing either, that you have to show that to some degree.
Correct. Yep.
Tyler,
Yeah.
City of Jasper in 2 counties. How's that work?
It's the same pot of money. And they're a large enough population where luckily we don't have to worry about it.
Okay.
They got sent their own funds. So
Good, I
if
didn't
it
know-
comes to it and they don't spend all their money, well, I would probably have to ask Domain a question about that, but we're technically the home county for that city, so I would assume it would come to us, but I'm not exactly positive because it is split citizenship, so.
I can't remember what.
Or
it
if they
is. I think
prorate
there's
it.
only like 50, 60.
Yeah, it's not
residents
that
in
many
Rock
people.
County.
Yeah, so I mean, whether they prorate it, whether, hopefully they just are able to spend it all, so they don't have to worry about it, but, that's a bridge that I would personally rather have Domain look into for something like that, of who they would actually have to get the money back to.
Those people send their taxes to Rock, right?
Correct. Right, I mean, we're the home county for the entire city technically, but it's split taxation, so it's a convoluted, kind of a gray area.
mess.
Yes.
When I was a mayor, it was hard to figure things out. But,
And the EMS department sits in Rock County,
and the fire department's in Rock County.
just on that side
Correct.
of the street.
Yep.
Carl Oldry should be writing us a check
But
for that.
law enforcement is from Pipestone County, cover the whole county, our town,
Yeah.
with quicker response.
So, you know, for instance, Jasper is sitting on $44,827 is what their allotment would have been to them for population based on 595. But it is not split out between Jasper City, Pipestone County, and Jasper City, Rock
just
County.
straight
It just
Jasper.
says Jasper City,
Right.
so they just lumped the whole thing together.
And Pipestone got a nice check too, I'm sure.
Yeah, they did.
300 or something?
Yeah, over 300,000.
I think I have that total over here. So, yeah, so like I said, we have the money, so the faster we do this, the faster we get this, the faster we can get relief out to people, so.
And down the road, we could get dollars back from these cities that haven't used it.
Correct, yeah, our pot of money, like I said, our pot of money can grow, because I believe it's November 15th. Well, I don't know if this whole HEALS Act changes that.
Who knows?
It was November 15th. If they hadn't spent all the money, they have to give it back to us, and then we have another month to spend it before we would have to give it back to the feds. As of now, I don't know. I mean, obviously, it's not passed,
In the wrong
but,
places, it's not the right thing.
correct, yeah, so, yeah.
I can't imagine how long it's gonna take to audit everybody too. It's gonna be
Correct,
years.
yes. So luckily, the the grant applications that I've looked at puts the liability on them. I mean, we have to do subrecipient monitoring, but it's mainly our auditors. They have to keep the records on file and we can request at that time. It's not something that they're gonna send to us every single time and we have to look through. So it's putting the liability on the companies to ensure that they handle it correctly.
And things are still changing.
Yes, it's very fluid right now. The whole pandemic is pretty fluid right now, so.
Come November after the election, it's all over with.
Hopefully they won't spend more auditing than they do on the program.
Right. Probably, I mean, they definitely could. So, yeah, hopefully we can move forward with this as fast as possible, like I said, with the information we have currently before everything changes, so. I guess that's all I really have.
Okay, thanks,
I
Tyler.
think for
Yeah.
business-wise, I would request that the board make a motion to authorize per diem for the two commissioners for the CARES Act committee temporarily. That's a temporary. That'd be okay?
Yep. I'll make a motion to,
Okay.
I'll second.
okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, anybody else have any business?
Dan, you okay with that?
I'll abstain. How's that sound? Can I choose to abstain?
Certainly.
Anybody else? care
So,
to
pass
adjourn?
4-1.
Shall we adjourn the meeting then today?
Any other business, gentlemen?
Move to
Vote.
adjourn.
Luke motion to adjourn,
Second.
Les second. All in favor? Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Have a good day, gentlemen.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
See you later.
You bet.
Up to the cool world.
Yeah.
So the CARES Act. Bruce, did you make the motion?
Um,
Or Les? Who did?
No, I didn't. Bruce and Luke.
Bruce? Thank you.
Goodbye.
yeah, bye.
Well, goodbye to you too.
They're gonna make it pretty easy for people just not to work too hard here pretty quick. I mean, a lot of people are just
Well, then they're talking about a second round of stimulus.
And that,
I mean, they're talking about lowering the unemployment amount, but yet, they're talking about another round of $1,200 checks for everyone.
we're gonna have to pay for all this crap one day someday.
Right.
Just print more money.
All right, well, have a good day, man.
See you at the hospital meeting.
Which one?
Hospital meeting this
Oh,
afternoon.
yeah, we got Zoom session.
Yeah.
1 o'clock, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, see ya.
See ya,
Yeah.
thank you, Bruce.